This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Hello, my name is Jim Sini. I'm the chair of the Southampton Housing Authority. I'm with Sierra Simmons and Dan LaValle. Today is February 27, 2023. This is a meeting of the Southampton Housing Authority. We are expecting another member to show up anytime soon, so we'll begin our meeting now with general discussions and calling the meeting to order. Our first order of business is open time for the public. It is 6:03 as we begin, and I don't see any interested members of the public here at this time. That could change. We're always welcome the public to our meetings, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Please,
absolutely.
show up.
We love that interest. We have an agenda, a full agenda for tonight's meeting, and we're going to have to tweak the order of the agenda a little bit because the first item is review of previous minutes and approval, and we need a quorum for approval. And right now we have 2 active members and a hope for a third member in Dan. So Dan is here, but not as a voting member yet. We will hold you to that later when the state hopefully appoints you, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna jump the minutes of the previous meeting review and approval and talk next about next steps for our trust. And I'm looking over at Sierra to see if you have any updates there.
I think we might need to wait for Joy on that one too.
Might have to wait for Joy. Okay, so we'll skip that one also and move to the statement of work or SOW template updates.
Ah, yes.
And I have some information on that, although not a lot of great information. So I've been emailing back and forth with Ed, our town administrator, who's clearly an extremely busy man.
Oh, yes.
So as of this moment, what I'm hoping to get from him are some templates or examples of SOWs that we can use, so we're not reinventing the wheel. And I don't have any information on that yet. But I do think if any of us here present, or our other 2 members in Janet and Joy, or citizens at large, anyone has some ideas or SOW templates that we can use, because I don't,
I like great SOWs for my job. That's my thing.
Okay.
So, they're for subcontracting work for different companies around the world.
Yep.
But it's still a statement of work.
Well, that's my question. That's my question to you. It's been years, but I used to, also supply statements of work.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm wondering, are they universal, or is there like a good statement of work template for a housing trust that really is going to make us? I'm all about not working too hard.
Yeah.
Right. So, there are housing trusts in nearby towns and et cetera. And I think that's what Ed was pursuing in his role as town administrator, right? He has these contacts. So
wait, this is for the housing trust? I thought this was for the RFP for the 354 College Highway property.
So I take it back. Oh. You're correct. I've got them conflated.
Okay.
For
housing authority, basically.
For the housing authority, but you're right, to next steps, because what we want to do is create an RFP.
Yeah, okay.
My apologies, thank you. It's been a long day.
No problem. If you, Dan, want to send me what your SOWs look like.
Sure. Okay. Send.
And then if you have any old ones from your job you want to send me.
I don't, because
okay,
I'm talking
okay.
decade, well over a decade ago. Oops, it's showing my age.
So if you send me that, I will do some Googling and see if there's at least a municipal statement of work of some kind. And then I'll try to synthesize them.
And
what happens.
So I have a legal partner I work with who does, I put the technical part of the statement of work in there, but he handles all the legal jargon. I'm sure he'll help us.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, maybe I'm lazy, but I guess this is right. We're balancing between we want expediency, right? Let's get this going. And is there some decent from neighboring towns statements of work that we can pilfer and plagiarize, for lack of a better word? So if you guys are willing to do that work, I'm certainly not going to discourage that.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful that we get something in addition to what you're doing. You
Yeah.
know, that's
Yeah.
really close to what we're looking for.
Yeah, maybe there's some Googling that would like. No?
The Google machine knows all.
Oh, I don't know if you already tried it.
Yeah, I would think I would try that, and then if there isn't anything, I could even call like a nearby town of people or email their housing authority, see if they have one. I'm sure
Okay.
they'd be willing to help.
And in the meantime, I have to report to the select board tomorrow night on all our work, all your work. I'm just the chair, so I appreciate what everybody does, but I may, in fact, encounter Ed directly. If I have a minute, he's going to be busy in the select board meeting, etc. I can inquire about the Sow. See if he can't move that up his priority list, his many top priorities. Okay, that's good. Next item for discussion, the College Highway Property update, and I have an update on that. Ed did clarify for me, we were hoping through the old surveys that there would be a wetlands delineation on those surveys that would definitively, mark if there was a wetland or concern and et cetera. And reviewing those surveys, which Ed, to his credit, did dig up and find,
Yep.
there is no such delineation.
Okay.
Now, again, the property's been perked, it borders conservation land that the town owns. That doesn't equate to there are wetlands.
Hello.
Greetings. Just
video
for your
recording is
edification, you are on camera, as we all are.
Hi, Southampton.
Welcome, Joy. We've started the meeting and have jumped in, but we've made no decisions yet because we don't officially have a quorum,
Okay,
given Dan's
I was wondering if Dan.
soon-to-be
I haven't heard
status,
anything
but
from the
still.
state, so
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what that means.
It means nothing. Trust us.
Yeah, that's true.
It doesn't mean, it's no reflection on your character. It means
That we know of.
Yes, that we know of. It just means the bureaucracy, right? Which we've learned tonight, Joy, that Sierra loves bureaucracy, so we're going to utilize that
Okay,
well.
well, good thing I'm on the opposite side of the table.
Right. She disclosed that inclination she has, and I think that was a mistake. We will punish her severely.
It's fine. All about it.
So right now we've just finished discussing. We got an update on the Sow template, which isn't much of an update, but Sierra and Dan are going to do some exploration, and I'm going to continue to nudge Ed and see if we can't come up with something that's just going to make our lives easier rather than reinventing the wheel.
Yep.
And now we're discussing the College Highway property update, which I'm providing, which is basically the survey that was done on the property years ago, does not delineate any wetlands. That shouldn't, in my opinion, discourage us because, again, just because a property borders conservation land,
Doesn't mean anything.
no, and the property's been fully perked. That said, this is maybe worthy of discussion before we proceed. No one's expressed any need for a wetlands delineation other than Habitat for Humanity, which
Yes.
we're just having preliminary discussions with them. They, like any other contractor or any other potential developer of that site, will have to go through the RFP process and submit a bid. That said, Habitat is one person's
Strong
opinion,
candidate.
strong
Yeah.
bidder, and so if there is a concern about a wetlands delineation that they have, it may be worthy of us to pursue having that done, which would cost some money. However, Ed reminded me that the price of the property that was approved by the town and what it actually costs, there's a difference. So there's some money there, a few thousand, but we're not talking, this isn't a huge expense.
Yeah, but enough.
To pursue this wetlands delineation, and then it's done, regardless of who submits for this.
Well, I think regardless, any new construction that you have to have Conservation Commission sign off. So
Yeah.
they're gonna get involved either way.
Okay.
think
And
it's
so,
worth
and in my ignorance, excuse me, but, because I'm not a real estate transactor. When conservation gets involved, are they also looking for a wetlands delineation? Does that help their process? Like, oh, okay, here it is.
Yes, it does.
Represent.
You would much rather want them, that delineation there beforehand rather than afterhand, or else they're gonna be like, you need to pay for it, you need to pay for it.
Yeah, you just go around the
Delineation,
block.
So this is, I'm hearing this is some,
Yeah, if there's a home where there's suspected wetlands, usually what happens is the surveyor, when they do the survey, delineate the wetlands, and then when it goes in front of Conservation Commission, when they file, I forgot what the term is.
RDA.
Yeah, an RDA. That you'll have that for the Conservation Commission. Without that, then they're gonna be like, you need to do this because we believe there's wetlands in the area or abutting wetlands.
so what I'm hearing is that from a place of mostly ignorance and whatnot, that there's a good strategy to getting that done regardless. It's just part of the process. And so what I'm hearing is we should proceed, we probably should have a vote on this, but and I don't know how to proceed, like, do we find a contractor or, who does this kind of work?
So we can think of our pool of friends and network. If there's anybody we can pull on that would maybe do this work for pro bono or whatever.
We could.
What is the job called? Is it a wetland survey? What is it?
Yeah, wetland survey.
Wetlands delineation.
Yeah, and delineation, I think, is the particular term,
Got
wetlands
it.
delineation, which I'm interpreting in absolutely literally, which means they determine
Here's the
which
border.
part of the property is
Yeah.
wetlands,
They'll
and they
literally
mark it
just
off.
mark off
Yeah.
there by like
Okay.
little tags.
Okay.
What's wetlands?
Okay. So, yeah, how do we,
So
I don't know if we need to get too technical here, if we need to have a vote for, yes, we're gonna proceed, and then we discuss how do we proceed, or can we make that one discussion? We'll vote on
I
both
think that's
proceeding
okay.
and, yeah, okay. So, Dan's point, can we network and find maybe someone who can provide a certain rate, or someone we know in town who does this regularly, or I don't think we have to do an RFP and put up for bid to do a wetlands delineation. It's under a certain amount of dollars.
Yeah, I thought that Ed Gibson had talked about some other approach to using subcontractors in town where this is like an approved supplier list.
Yeah, we just
No?
discussed that.
That actually, that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense, right?
Yeah,
That's
it's like, so if they're on this list, then you can just use them. You don't have to put an RFP or statement of work and all that other good stuff.
Right, they've been vetted.
Yeah, so.
Okay, how do we learn this? Is this
We
something?
asked
It's
our
another Ed.
administrator for the,
Everything comes down to asking Ed.
Pretty much.
Every
No wonder
time.
Ed's so busy.
Poor Ed.
So, if it's,
I mean, I don't have the list, so.
yeah,
Or
that's
I can
fine.
ask, the chair, the select board chair, if she has a list too.
However you want to proceed, because I already have, an email going to Ed, asking again for, a SAL template. I can include in that email. We'd also like the vetted list of,
Yeah, if they happen to have people for wetlands delineation on that list.
I will do it.
Thank you, Jim.
Wow.
See, I knew I could contribute. All right, so let's have a vote. Let's make it official that we're gonna, I'm looking for a motion to say, essentially that we want to approve proceeding with getting the wetlands delineation for this property and spending that money to do this. Would someone be willing to make a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second for discussion. Dan,
Aye.
I'm trying to think of the process for Concom.
I was trying to think I had to be quiet because I can't vote.
No, but
Well, you can be
I have a
as
question. No, I
noisy
have
as
a-
you want.
Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Because you were on Conservation
Yeah.
Commission too, and my memory is failing.
So I'm-
No, not you too. Much too young for that. This is what it looks like when it gets worse. It's not pretty.
If the town files an RDA,
Yep.
request for determination of applicability,
Yep.
and conservation goes out there and they say, oh, we don't think the wetlands.
Sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
They don't need to take it any further. One thing that
They
would
don't
be-
take any further action.
because
So it could be more cost effective to wait for the conservation.
I would
I don't
bring to the I would send to the conservation, look up on the Mass Mapper, which used to be called Oliver. It's a,
All the GIS.
yeah, and if it show like, hey, look, there's no wetlands like within a mile
Within
of here
I
or
think,
something.
no, I think it's within buffer zones. I have to look back and see what the buffer zones
Yeah,
are.
so if it really shows that this is like highlands and dry, then they may look at it and be like,
Because it is, the property is differentiated from the conservation property by a huge
There's a ravine.
ravine.
oh,
Yes, there is.
okay.
Yeah, it's not right on the
Border?
line, but there's a ravine, there's a significant ravine there, which
Is there
is,
water through it?
it looks like when there's water running, it's
Okay.
not an active stream.
Okay.
But, I mean, that's why we offered in the beginning, you recall, some of you, that when we first were looking at the property and we got Concom involved to see if we wanted to do a carve-out for a right-of-way,
Yes.
because to access the property would be a lot easier through 354 College Highway than traversing a ravine.
Oh, to get to the Concom
Yes.
property right now, you have to go through the ravine.
Yes, it's not very safe.
Okay.
So that evidences the ravine.
How far do we anticipate the building construction from the ravine?
In feet or,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. I would guess, and I'm not a great estimator of this, but at least 300 feet, if not more.
That's good.
At least.
Good number.
Because there's a start of the ravine near the property line, but the ravine, there's a bit of a ravine that runs along parallel to College Highway, but that's not necessarily a ravine. That is part of the College Highway construction and
Right.
landfill. The actual ravine itself, that's natural to the topography, is pretty far back and east of the property line that we're
Yeah.
considering.
And I think one of the things you can do is, if there is determined to be wetlands.
South, I should say. Sorry.
If it is areas that are determined to be wetlands, we can, what you can do is you can say, I will trade areas of land that are wetlands for dry lands because I need to build in this area. One of the compromises we can make to the Conservation Commission is say, we'll give the Conservation Commission parking access to their property for the rights to build in these areas. So you can trade.
Right, so a little bit of history that you are not privy to because
Oh.
you weren't on this committee,
I
but we
just
had
knew
some
that.
pretty lengthy discussions with Concom.
Yeah.
And this is from my old man memory, but my recollection, and people can read the minutes if they want to know, confirm, both Concom minutes, because we had joint meetings. But the Concom to me presented a split. There were some members who saw the value in the carve out and the access, and others who their perspective was, we've owned this property for decades and we've never considered making hiking trails here. In fact, we can't maintain the hiking trails that we have already. So there certainly wasn't a
I
consensus.
can picture that conversation in my
Yeah,
head.
there certainly was not a
About
consensus.
other properties.
Yeah, there certainly wasn't in their defense, there was no consensus or sense of we're going one way or the other here. There was this kind of a split. And so ultimately a disinterest in
Okay.
the carve out.
Okay. So
And I understand that.
there's no advantage, no trade, there's no leverage there. by
Not that I
using
can see,
carve-out.
unless there's
Parking.
a striking change among Concom members to suddenly have that property be, I won't say developed, be changed and to be,
Yeah.
driven for access with trails, etc.
May I ask, so does Habitat of Humanity as a prospective bidder was interested in the wetlands delineation because it's just a budding conservation commission land?
I suspect they looked around and yes, did some preliminary work before because they wanted to walk the property. And they did with Janet, who's unfortunately not here. and expressed, I can't be certain, but I think that's part of it. And so as a follow-up to your question, I have an observation. And again, Habitat is not our bidder, but even if Concom says, they look at the property, we're good with this, and we say we don't need a delineation,
Yeah.
maybe Habitat still does. In other words, I don't know how it works, but would Habitat say, we appreciate the town's Concom perspective on this, however.
So they have that right to not participate unless
Right.
certain needs are met.
Ultimately, I don't know why they wouldn't
I don't
take,
either.
because Conservation Commission is the permitting
I
authority.
don't either. I guess I worked in the federal bureaucracy too long, and I always look for problems rather than
Solutions?
right. I look for where things might go wrong.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't want to be looking for a solution that needs a problem or whatever.
Well,
If Concom,
What's the time frame?
certainly I can reach out to Habitat and I can say.
well, I think there just needs to be just a little more research. Let me
Yeah.
figure out the Mass GIS and see if there are wetlands that I'm like on the property that are
Okay.
besides the ravine.
Mhm.
It's also hard to know because there's no plan for what the house is gonna be, what the construction,
Right.
where
For
the
sure.
construction is.
Yeah, there are some assumptions you're gonna have to make about where it will be placed and size.
And is there room for a small duplex,
Of course.
which can happen. And Habitat created a duplex, I think I've said it in this forum before, over on East Street in East Hampton. It's possible, and then you get more bang for your housing dollar out of a piece of property.
Duplexes I've seen go up recently in Southampton.
Yeah.
It's
Are we in a rush to get this delineation?
No, I think
So-
there's always an urgency. We've got the property, the town approved monies for this. Are you doing anything with it? Which is, to me, a reasonable request by the taxpayer. So, but I think what you're talking about, Joy, and this exploration is reasonable.
Yeah.
Because we're doing due diligence to a process. We're not rushing and actually potentially spending money that we shouldn't or don't need to spend.
Right. We're trying to protect the taxpayers' dollars.
I think so. This is due diligence.
they
So
give them
that's a
a
long answer to your question.
Okay, so in regards to the motion, do we want to vote on it or table it
What was the motion again?
to approve funds for the wetlands
I-
delineation?
In retrospect, seems to me it's a table because we're not sure if we're going to.
Okay.
Yeah. I do appreciate Sarah taking, and good notes. So Joy, you're going to follow up there,
Yes.
and I will follow up with Habitat just to say,
Did they see something? I would like more information about why, besides the assumption there's wetlands there because the Conservation Commission land is.
Yeah.
Like, did they see something that they were like, oh, this is,
or is this just, they're a national organization, do they just have some history where this is what we require when we do
Yeah.
property?
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
But I could ask them,
Yeah.
okay, you like a wetlands delineation, if we had the town's Concom say this is good, would that suffice?
For sure.
I'll
And
ask
then
them
we'll know. And if they say no, we need it because we're a
Then-
national
Well, it's kind of like a
organization.
chicken or an egg thing.
It is a chicken and egg.
Concom won't say yes or no unless an RDA is filed, and an RDA won't be filed unless there's a plan.
All right, so I missed something, because Dan, I thought I heard you say that, Concom can kind of walk the property and see and say, oh, yeah.
They've done that before.
Okay,
I don't
Yes.
think they're gonna do it for us.
Okay.
yeah, okay,
I think we, yeah, they have asked.
Okay.
okay. All right, well, so that,
Because usually when it's like a cut and dry thing, like there's obviously no wetland, so it'll just be like.
I don't know,
well, is that something you're willing to explore?
I am willing to explore.
So we've got a number of simultaneous fires cooking here, which is fine. And all the dominoes fall when the answers come in the proper order. So
I
I'll,
will find my communications with the Conservation Commission about the property and let you know.
thank you. And maybe separately, Dan, you can ask it.
Yeah, it's all.
And I will separately ask Habitat.
I'm not going to bother people.
So I think it's prudent to table this vote.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's more information.
It sounds like we have many paths
Do we need
to
to
go forward.
formally withdraw a
Yeah.
motion at this time?
I don't really know.
Yeah.
I just sit here.
Just
I'm not the
pretend it
clerk.
never
I don't know the
happened.
rules. I just wrote
Why don't we formally withdraw? Just if there's
Yes.
a question about it, we'll do it.
motion
Because I think
withdrawn
tabling means you can't vote on it ever.
For the time being,
Yeah.
for the time being. Done.
without prejudice.
Did I say that?
Right.
We'll throw that in there. Can we throw that in all our sentences?
All right. So now that we have a quorum, I'm going to circle back to our second item after open time for the public, which I'll just let our viewing audience know there remains no members of the public here at this time. So we'll review and approve previous minutes.
All right, that's January 9th. Did everyone have a chance to look at them?
I did, and then I forgot what I was going to say about that.
I did, but I don't have anything to say, so I'm curious now, Joy.
I know. Sierra, did you send that out?
No, that was Janet. Let's
Okay.
see.
Does the television actually work?
Was-
Rachel?
No. I'm sorry.
No problem. Did you find them?
No,
Okay, let's see. They were sent on January 20th.
January 20th.
Would you have sent them to? I don't know.
Mm,
No.
yes,
Oh.
you were on that list.
Okay.
Let's to approve.
For the convenience of our viewing audience, I'm going to pause. All right, we're back.
Number 7. I knew that it's so small, you guys are gonna laugh. Number 7, 1, 2, 3, the fourth bullet point down.
Yeah.
Dan the Valley is interested in joining the housing authority but has conflicts on Mondays if her gets appointed.
Oh, well,
I'm not offended.
It's the
Right.
little things.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
really.
I have selective memory, and it's the little things that will.
well,
If-
we're open to gender fluidity. but
They,
you're-
him, how about
If he, yeah,
That'd be
just
the
he.
right
It
word.
just needs to take out the
Change the
R,
pronoun.
and then you're
We're
good.
going to assign the
Okay, and it was just
proper
a-
identified pronoun. Correct.
All right. Motion to approve January 9th minutes with that one edit, which I have noted.
Oh, second.
Minutes.
Okay, we shall vote. All in favor with
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is unanimous.
So do I need to write down who makes each motion?
No, not for, we're all together.
Yeah.
It's recorded, we're all together. You can just,
If it was a
Okay.
Zoom meeting, we'd
Yeah,
have to do a
Zoom,
voice
yes.
vote.
but
Oh.
not in person.
Oh,
So if
there is
whoever
a-
make that, we just say
an
motion made and
advantage to being in
seconded.
person.
Yeah, you only have to do roll call vote over Zoom and if you're in executive session.
Right.
Huh.
I mean, it doesn't, if you want to, it's not going to hurt, but it's not required.
Okay. Got it.
Good. Damn. Moving right along here.
Okay.
Good. Well done. All right, thank you. Next agenda item is multi-family dwelling.
Well, there's another one that we skipped earlier, the housing trust next steps.
Oh, my apologies. Thank
Oh,
you.
aren't we waiting for it to be approved by the Attorney General?
Well, that's the question. Are we still
That's-
waiting for?
That's the question, yeah.
Yeah,
What's
okay.
the
I
update?
know, yes.
Yes.
Okay, still waiting for Attorney General approval.
I
Got
have
it.
Is
I
there
have
a
a
phone
question.
number you can call?
Right.
Waiting.
That's right. So we have a new Attorney General. Is that, I have no idea. Is there a standard wait time? Is there something we need to push? Or is this just how it works?
I think it takes a while. I think, yeah, it takes a while.
I was hoping we could get people in there by the May meeting, but I don't
Yeah.
know. Oh, well.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to encourage all of us and any citizenry who's watching that has thoughts on who might be a good member of this trust committee to please submit those names and for us to continue thinking about folks. I have one person in mind, but very good. All right. So now we move on to the next.
Okay.
The multi-family dwelling zoning discussion, and this is a discussion. I continue to receive emails from planning board chair, and I appreciate that. I know they're starting to work on this, and Dan, you have a unique perspective. I'm really curious. I always want to, despite my earlier comments about traversing the bureaucracy, I always want to oh, let's go. So
it would be nice.
If you have any update or insight as to how that's moving and where we are with that, and our role here, whether it's a joint meeting or how we are to work with and assist the planning board.
So, as you know, we were going through that recodification of the bylaw, that process, and that'll be what is accomplished at the next town meeting, hopefully. At that point, then we'll be able to start talking about incorporating and changing, making the updates for inclusionary zoning, anything that would help in the affordable housing area.
Mm-hmm.
So the first approach for planning board is, because I've been trying for years to get them updated, it's just get them, have it updated with all the changes they initially had.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that after that, that's where the opportunity is.
So they're working on, just if I can summarize, the basics, the updates in the cut, and that has to be approved at town meeting.
Yes.
And that sounds to me like a real bear. Line by line.
They've been doing it for
Wow.
longer than I've been on the planning board. So.
And so that's their understandable focus. And when they get there,
Mhm.
they're ready. Then they have the bandwidth to start thinking about.
It hasn't stopped us from having conversations about
Right.
how we're going to improve affordable housing in town.
Uh-huh.
We would talk about zoning.
Mhm.
We talk about many different approaches. But-
Overlay districts and things like that.
Right.
And-
Right.
Well, Ken Comio was working with the planning board, wasn't he, from
Yes.
PC, going over
Yeah.
the different kind of zoning bylaws that would affect affordable housing.
Mhm. So I'm not sure if they're being incorporated in this round.
I know, I don't think they are, but I'm just saying overall, that's what he was working on with the planning board this past 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Or
think
however long.
that getting Ken involved is pretty big, because
Yeah.
he's very helpful and knowledgeable in that area. So I see there's opportunities, and it's just a matter of getting the right language that we feel will help Southampton. It's got to match Southampton, because different, some larger cities take some approaches, some.
Mhm.
But that may not match for our rural community. So we've got to find what is best suited for us that helps to grow affordable housing.
And Paul Demon has certainly been
Oh, yeah.
very open to moving on this. I want to give him that credit.
Yeah, Paul's great.
He's been communicative. So I guess I just want to get a sense for my own, is there a time frame, right? And Paul's given me every indication that he'd be willing to have, joint meetings or housing authority participation.
I think that's a good thing we can do, is set a goal line, or we don't have by this date we want to try to accomplish this, between the housing and planning. I think that would help.
Do you think it would be helpful to have a joint meeting with the housing authority and planning board to go over what the planning board did with Ken?
Yeah. Can I say that?
You can.
Okay.
So,
As a member of the public.
Well, you're a member of the planning board.
You're a member of the planning board.
As a member of the
There you
planning
go.
board. As a member of the Parks Commission.
So maybe that's something at the next
Yeah.
meeting we can suggest. I mean, I'll be there too, but I'll support you in whatever you suggest since you're actually on the board. But having a meeting to present or discuss
Right.
what Ken worked on with them.
Because I'm a strong believer, and I have no reason, again, to believe that anyone on the planning board thinks differently. And I know that the chair wants to collaborate, which is great. Which is, to your point, Dan, that, we want to make this right for Southampton.
Yeah.
But even within the town of Southampton, there are differing views and perspectives.
Oh,
So I definitely want
yeah.
housing authority perspective. And our sense of urgency around this.
Yeah.
And we have the master plan, and we have the town survey we took, a while back. We had a great response rate. There's clearly demand for, broader price points in town for housing.
Oh, yeah.
So we want to make sure that voice is heard.
So I'm going to ask for the joint
Planning
meeting, and as well as during that joint meeting, we set some goals and deadlines for accomplishing this.
Yeah. Have a sense of, next steps
Yeah.
and timeline.
Yeah.
And not that we have to be rigid and to the timeline, but a sense.
Yeah, I feel like we are all trying to walk in the right direction, but it'd be nice to know that we're headed in the right direction. Have a map.
Yes.
Something else that may fit under here, Joy, you had mentioned the idea of getting a one-stop grant.
I was just gonna bring you my mind.
Because it was
Well,
on the old minutes, so I was like, oh yeah.
Yes.
So that is on
So-
the change to the agenda for tonight, because we just saw an email from Chris.
Yeah,
Oh, I
so
didn't
the
see that.
deadline
Okay.
is March 17th, and there is funding for, I think if you're looking at zoning and trying to increase affordable housing, kind of, rural planning for affordable housing.
Oh, that's perfect. That was,
Affordable housing planning for rural communities, something like that.
Interesting.
and that's a grant. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a one-stop grant, but
Ah.
I think, but the deadline for the application is March 17th.
Right around the corner.
And unfortunately, we didn't meet last week.
I would suggest that we have a meeting. If I was on the housing authority,
Yes.
I would suggest that we have a meeting with the grants committee, right?
Well, that's what I think the email was saying, that grants committee, if you want to apply for this, please come to our meeting.
First of all, I didn't get that. Can you forward that to me? Second of all, I'd be happy to work with the grants committee again. I've done that before on last year's
And
one
very
stop.
successfully, I'll add.
Well, yes, although
Yes.
last time we did one stop, we just decided not to apply for anything
Okay.
after we got our
So
LOI
the-
through. But
Okay, yeah, I think I just
I do
sent
love
it to
grant
Jim.
You've done successful grants.
yes.
But I will send it to you, Sierra. Yeah, she sent, the ad hoc grant committee will be meeting March 2nd via Zoom. Please feel free to join in and present any ideas you might have, or send to me ahead of time if you cannot attend.
Okay.
So that's coming up.
So our
So I'll
grant
send it to you.
maven.
Yes.
So,
Oh, that's
that
like
would be
Thursday,
awesome, Sierra.
right?
yeah, that's Thursday.
Yeah,
Would you be able to make it?
This Thursday.
I don't know if I can attend that, but what I can do is send our idea for discussion, and then I
3
can
o'clock.
talk with Chris separately.
What time is the meeting?
3 o'clock or maybe 2:30.
Oh, really? I might be able to do it
2:30
then.
to 3:30.
On March 2nd?
They have weird,
I-
not weird. They have their meetings during business hours when others have work. So,
I'm actually more into that. Okay, I might be able to do that. Thursday.
yeah, if it's during that time, I'm not gonna be able to make it.
Let me just
And
check
it
my
sounds like you
calendar. But either way, we can send them something. So,
You said it's 3?
2:30.
Yeah, 2:30 to 3:30. So I'll,
Oh, 2, yeah.
Well, we're lucky we
Yeah, I
got
can do it.
Sierra, and
Yeah, I can
you
Yes,
can make it.
so yeah,
That's
but
great.
if you mind just CCing me on that too, so I can bring that up
I-
tomorrow at Select Board.
I just sent you
Just
the
a reminder.
meeting
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, let me forward you the email.
Okay.
And then if they need help or whatever with getting that grant out, I'm free on the weekends.
So
to work
basically,
on it.
the goal of this study would be, can we and how can we improve affordable housing, whether it's multifamily dwelling, other things, just general zoning
Yeah.
studies, right? Okay.
I don't know. I kind of feel like we're doing that. You know?
That's true.
It's like,
There's a
like-
rural and small town development fund. I think it would
Yeah.
probably come from that.
And this is it's an LOI, so you send them your ideas and they tell you if it's actually feasible. or if they think you'll get it, and then you do the main one for May. So I think even if we're already starting it, they might be able to give us some resources that we don't already have.
Yeah.
And they might be able to do some of the work for us. Like right now, it's kind of, like you said, it's sort of moving along slowly, but
Yep.
I think if we got this grant, more resources, maybe a consultant to walk us through it the way they did with other things, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
So she also sent in her email, she stated they sent last year 3 expressions of interest, including exploring underutilized properties for public housing.
Yes.
Right.
And jumpstart mixed use / commercial development, which could include public housing. So I think like that's something.
Yes, so that one, what happened last year is those projects, we sent the LOI, they said, yes, these projects would go through, but when I looked at like the details for the application, they really favored things that were like large, like at least creating such and such number of units. And so
they
all
get
this,
return on their investment.
yeah, all the sites we were
Yeah.
looking at were very small and weren't like big enough projects. And when we were talking about exploring underutilized properties, we realized we only had like 1 or 2, and they really wanted like a number of them to look through. So
It's a tough town.
we didn't have, yeah, so that was the issue, was just we didn't have something on a big enough scale. But I think the zoning thing has actual promise for going through. So.
Well, she said, and also in the email, having attended a recent webinar, it would appear that construction, oh wait, never mind, that's in regards to the safety building.
Okay.
But I mean, I think there's a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Keep throwing the spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks.
Right, and just
No?
It'll work.
and to know the
means
history,
it's done,
like
right?
this committee has looked at the idea of, can we put affordable housing or even mixed use development in the old town hall? Looked at that. It's an old building.
I was just gonna say that building is not
Right,
very
so there's-
safe.
There's not a lot of property we redeveloped in town. That said, we always look.
Yeah. Things could happen.
But
Yeah.
certainly I think there's potential in a grant for, looking for help in how to create zoning that works in a
For sure. I
rural
think
area.
the answer is in zoning.
Yeah, and I think there's potentially help in looking at a grant for how to do a joint commercial affordable development, because that was part of the discussion,
Yeah,
if
I
you
think
recall,
that would be
when
great.
there was a Dunkin' Donuts submission on the property next to the former Opa Opa. That was a counter proposal, at least from Housing Authority's perspective, is we would support given. So at least those 2 things. If not, as far as grants to develop properties, never say never. Never say never. So thank you, Sierra, for
No problem.
you are our grant maven. Okay.
The bigger grant, I mean, while you're on the subject,
Yeah.
if there's one of these one-stop grants, is getting town sewer. If there's anything along those lines, because if you got town sewer, you would enable.
Oh yeah.
A plan for town sewer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has anybody even tried to make a plan? Because I know it's like millions of dollars and years of work. It's huge.
Right,
And it's
that'd
like, whose job is that? Is it the Water and Sewer Commission? Is
No.
it the planning board? Who is
I think
zoning
it's
board?
a joint, I think it's a multi,
Yeah.
Is that everybody?
yeah,
Kinda wants it.
everyone putting it
The
together.
select
And
board.
probably private developers too.
Yeah.
Someone
So-
who really has an interest and a stake in it.
Right, there was some talk, it's been explored in the past,
Oh, okay.
from my memory of hearing testimony from folks.
Testimony.
For example, running a sewer line down to East Hampton, down the rail trail, as they put in the rail trail, which is, they're talking about, getting monies for
Yeah.
that in town.
Tapping off at East
That
Hampton.
you also, and tapping into East Hampton. The feedback was East Hampton
Yeah.
may not have the capacity to
Exactly.
be open to
Yeah.
taking.
Yeah.
So infrastructure and sewer has always been a problem. Again, we should never say never, but there's the challenges of not only creating the steam and the financing to build that kind
It's a
of
major, it needs to be
sewer.
its own.
They're also short of creating our own sewer treatment plants,
Yes.
which would be another huge expense.
Yeah.
Easier to tap in East Hampton. East Hampton latest is they're not so eager to take that possibility.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
are
that
other
could change.
other surrounding towns. I look to Holyoke. I mean, they get water from us,
Right.
so I think they owe us a little something.
Westfield there, looking at it for Hampton Pond.
Yeah,
So,
so that end of town, right, bordering Hampton Ponds.
yeah, so not only the one-stop grant to come up with better zoning, but I think long-term,
You could-
that would be a nice goal for the housing
Or at least it'd be a
authority to spin off.
feasibility, like if, what would work.
Yeah. It doesn't happen unless you ask the questions.
Fair.
Like the municipal light plant, all of a sudden we're trying to get fiber in town, you know?
Okay. All right, so, I had the agenda item, multifamily dwelling zoning, but it's really about collaborating with the planning board on looking at zoning, not just multifamily, but the whole
And
scope.
I think that's great if we can get someone who is actually paid to coordinate these efforts, like through the one-stop shopping grant. No?
Not Stop and Shop. It's a community one-stop growth grant.
Community one stop for growth.
I knew there was a stop in there.
Yes.
Yeah, one stop.
and drop.
There was one stop.
One
Oh.
stop.
You guys knew what I meant.
They're like,
Yes.
we're making it easier, and yet somehow it's still extremely complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's me. I love bureaucracy, as I said earlier.
We're gonna hold you to that.
Yes.
How long can
Okay.
you stay and wait?
Other thoughts or input as far as our ongoing, I appreciate you bringing up the one stop, because I had that here as something to add, because Chris asked to put it on there, but it fit perfectly with that topic. So I feel we've covered, our role and our interest in one-stop grant application under the heading of collaborations with the planning board.
Yeah.
Folks, do folks agree, or any
Yes.
further discussion, or
I think
dissension?
seamlessly went into that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And covered sufficiently?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent.
Good. All right. So I have on here, a next agenda item is succession planning, looking at our next chair. As you know, my term expires in June, and so we'll need another chair for this authority.
Are you saying that you do not want to be the chair anymore?
I'm saying that I definitely do not have the bandwidth to be the chair anymore, and...
Not to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to understand what you're saying.
Fine. No, I'm saying, right, as of this moment, I am not planning to run for re-election. I'm not
Okay.
planning to continue.
Okay.
You're going to stay on the board in general?
Right now, no. Right now, no. Right now, no.
Will you
But
attend as a guest audience member?
I'm I'll share with folks, I'm happy to share it
No,
publicly.
no,
I'm
no.
very interested in this topic. That's why I started doing this.
Yeah.
And it's close to me, and we've done a lot of great work, and there's a lot of great work that needs to be done. And so I have very mixed emotions about continuing. I do not have mixed emotions about continuing as chair. I do not have the bandwidth for that, and things are getting even more complicated. So I'm not enjoying that, and this should be enjoyable. And it's just there's too much going on. Whether I will continue as a member, I'm still thinking about. So independent of that discussion is we'll need a new chair come June. And I think it's important to, rather than just say we have some kind of transition plan or some succession plan. So I'm putting that out there publicly. We don't have to determine that tonight, obviously.
I would like
But
to
it's-
publicly put out there that I think you, as chair, when I first met you attending a planning board meeting and putting up with the previous consultant for the planning board, you were steadfast and very impressive in your ability to keep your cool through the whole thing. I remember that, and I just wanted to say excellent job and thank you for that.
The diplomacy is strong with this
Diplomacy.
one.
Yeah,
Got
that's
it.
for sure.
Well, thank you. It didn't feel that way. So I'm glad. Fake it till you make it, I guess. Thank you. Listen, this work is important to me. But I'm also recognizing that I don't feel I'm an effective chair right now. And I think this board deserves better. And I'm not organizing myself well. So it's not a good thing, I think, for this committee, this board, to have me to continue as chair, and it's not good for me. So it's time for that change.
Would having an assistant or something, a paid assistant, be better for? Not saying even if it's not you in the role.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that the Open Space Committee did was that through the tax program in town, they had a volunteer, an elderly volunteer, perform
Interesting.
work for the committee.
Admin
support in lieu of
Tax.
whatever tax
Yeah.
monies they agreed to. I wasn't privy to that.
So that's an intriguing idea, because I was thinking of just that very thing, Dan, that it seems to me that the town and the select board, which I appreciate, is trying to professionalize the process more. So, but there is, in my opinion, some redundancy in that, because I need to present to the select board tomorrow night on what we're doing here as a housing authority. I also need to provide written input for the select board for that.
I think I might.
There needs to be quarterly inputs to the select board, which is the same thing. Then there's the annual town report. So there's a lot of reporting going on, and there's also these meetings that are recorded.
Yeah.
So I think it feels to me very corporate, which is good in some ways, because it's accountability and transparency. But it's also is more work. And so the admin support, I would recommend, not just for this committee, but be looked at for all committees. So there's a resource pool that the committee could say, I need your help with this.
I'm not sure how the chair, Cindy Palmer, procured that resource. I imagine it had something to do with the select board.
I don't know if it's still in play though.
Yeah. I would say that just in general, any chair of any committee would appreciate admin support.
This is true.
That's a very broad answer to your question. It's not going to change my approach to me moving on from the chair role. But
Yeah,
I think it would be helpful.
Yeah. So that's an action for me.
Well, last time you tried to step down as chair, Janet was very forceful in not allowing that to happen. So I feel like
Janet's
because she's not here,
You're trying to get away with something.
yeah.
No. I have put this out there. In fact, it's on the agenda before I knew Janet wasn't
I know,
coming.
I saw that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So, and I'm going to be, my wife gives me a hard time. Don't you know how to say no? I am saying no. Yeah. Very clear about this. And I actually had a conversation with Janet about this afternoon. And I'll plead to the public. There are 4,000 eligible voters in this town. There's got to be people out there who are willing to be on the housing authority, who have interest. There was a strong, I'm looking at the camera, there's strong interest from not only our master plan committee, but also from the survey, which had a great response rate, close to 30%, I think, which is unheard of in surveys. People saying we need more affordable housing in town, we need greater price points, we need starter homes, finisher homes. So there's interest out there, and I'm really going to encourage the public to step forward and help out with this, because there's a lot of you out there. We're a small committee, it's a friendly, helpful committee. A lot of help. So
We have fun.
there's skills out there, there's people out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't have to rely on those of us sitting at this table.
I think, yeah.
Okay.
If you look at the members of your committee between myself, Joy,
Yeah.
and Janet.
Almost number.
Almost? You're not gonna let me cross the.
No, not yet.
Not until the AG signs. No, I'm sorry. We are a committee
I keep trying to sneak
of
that in.
procedure. We are a committee of procedure, sir. You will learn that.
What should I say? You have a group that is already chairs of other committees.
Exactly.
Members of the select board. They're
Yes. Yes, and that's why I plead to the citizenry,
yeah.
because there's too few people in town doing too much, and we need input from folks. We need participation. We need your elbow grease.
All right, I guess.
Because that's a valid point. There's everyone sitting around this table has other things going on. It's a lot to ask.
There's a reason why all the chairs of the committees I'm on are retired.
Right.
Yeah, they have time. I mean, it must be. It
Well,
would be nice, like.
We could get into a philosophical discussion, but you know,
We could,
right?
we could,
We
but-
could. There's
I
just-
think
there's-
every
It's a town
retired
committee.
person should be on a town committee.
Like a
Well,
hockey-
I'd like committees to be arranged and the demand of us to be such that it really is a citizen committees, and so there's room for people who are working to actually partake. And there's a lot of demands. Like I said, multiple reports, town meeting reports, you know, presenting to the select board. It's a lot. But
Okay, well.
There is
we'll
that.
Keep your
yes,
retirement and from,
one of
Housing
the
authority,
one of
back
the
reminds.
one of the privileges of chairship, I should say, is to you set the agenda, and so I will continue to have succession planning on the agenda, ongoing. through June. And we'll discuss it each month.
When June is your.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's when my term expires.
Okay, we got time.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Next agenda item is, are there any agenda items that cannot wait until the next meeting? Which we haven't decided on yet, but we will shortly. I always throw that catch-all because I miss things. on
I
the
sent
agenda.
out an article about what California has been done for affordable housing, and basically they just said anywhere you have housing for a single dwelling, you have to allow a duplex or multiple family housing.
Why the heck not?
Oh,
It just seems like so simple.
Well, actually, I read that, and
Yeah.
my first reaction was, that's already being explored in area towns around here and in Massachusetts as,
Yeah.
there's a lot of understanding that there needs to be more housing, and there needs to be more housing on, you know, varying price points. And so the idea that we're gonna limit where you can build a duplex, or we're gonna limit the size, the square footage of that duplex, is, I could see it eroding. It's not just in California, where it's happening right, you know, in the next town over, et cetera. And it's a pretty easy button to push. There doesn't seem to be, you know, political ramifications to that. People are getting it. I think where we need to be careful as a town is to not, if we talk about adding flexibilities to zoning,
Yeah.
changing frontage requirements, for example.
Sure.
Let's say, you know, that we don't create the situation that we see is happening in the Bay State section of Northampton, which is huge, you know, 3,000 square foot homes being put on small lots right next,
Oh.
right
Smaller
next, right
lots,
next to
yeah.
one another. So the, I think,
It creates its own
and, you know,
different problem. I see.
apologies to the city of Northampton if I'm, you know, mischaracterizing the situation, but
Enjoy your
it
drive
seems
home.
to this observer that what happened is there was good intent. We'll allow for smaller lots and more houses, and
Yeah.
those are small lots, so they'll put small homes there. No, what happened is it just created an opportunity for more larger homes.
Yeah.
So there has to be in this zoning process, and this is where the
That-
consultation will help, that, you know, with the, because what the town would be doing in a zoning change, right, is,
Right.
as a town, we have this sense of rural character, and so the town would be giving that up for more housing, so the town has, in my opinion, the citizenry has some leverage in saying, if we're gonna change an overlay district, we're gonna allow certain development where we didn't in the past, we're also gonna be very specific about what that
Yeah,
development
yeah.
is.
Yes.
We're not just gonna say, we're gonna allow smaller lots.
It's a multi-dimensional problem.
It is, and it's,
Defining exactly the
Right.
size of the building structures that go on the lots.
Because I spent some time in Atlanta, or in
Yeah.
the suburbs, and I've seen that, right? Where like they'll have these small lots, but they'll have a huge house on it, and there's another huge house right next to it. It's-
I've seen that in the South too. They create a planned community, essentially.
yeah.
They force a community. You put houses really close to one another, and then they create a community center.
Yeah.
You create a little town. And so that's not necessarily what we're looking for.
Mhm.
And I think we also have to we have to be really careful, and I know we're jumping way ahead, but when we look at zoning changes, it's not just, okay, we're going to limit the square footage of what can be placed on that property, because you can put a very high-end small unit, right?
Okay.
And so you're creating finisher homes, but they're very high-end. It's a
Okay.
1 or 2 bedroom,
Oh,
but you've got all the best appliances, all the best, fixtures, sinks, faucets, etc.
yeah.
Rain showers, etc. It's very high end, but it's only, 1,000 square feet. So you're still not reaching the target.
Yeah. Mhm.
So how much we can do that legally, limit that, is the question, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's going to defeat the purpose, despite our good intents, if we're not really, really careful.
I agree. You have to. There's always those unintended consequences of a change.
And I'll go on record as saying, if it works out that limits can be placed, and developer says, well, that doesn't interest me, then no one's going to develop it. Oh well, that's no net gain or loss from what we have now, which is if you have a property that doesn't meet the frontage requirement, you can't build there.
Mm.
So, all right.
We didn't move the needle.
The goal is not to build more housing. The goal is to build more housing in price points that meet the needs of what the citizens want, which is more starter homes and more finisher homes.
And you mentioned the other one was a finisher home, but it's like a lower cost finisher home.
Yes, that's when I say starter and finisher. There's
Yeah.
there's an assumption there, right? that
Okay.
It's all about the cost.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but I appreciate that clarification, right? Because you can assume starter means a certain price point, but a finisher home, in the example I gave, there's a market out there, I'm sure, for people who want to downsize.
Yeah.
But they want to downsize high end,
Yeah.
and that's not what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And it's not Jim Sini's opinion, it's not my opinion, it's not the
No.
opinion of the Housing Authority. We are basing our actions based on this survey, which was a well-crafted survey that Ken Comey of the PVPC helped us create. It's not a garbage survey.
Yes. Ken
It's-
Comey is a great man.
He is. And that's what the citizens want of us. It's a responsibility we need to be really careful with. Okay.
Anything else?
We have to schedule our next meeting. And I propose, while we got a little bit out of joint here, that even though it's a short time from now, we return to our regularly scheduled program. We turn to, which is the second Mondays.
So March 13th. Yep, on my schedule.
Is that going to work for folks?
March 13th.
6 p.m. And I also propose that we continue meeting in person, because we've had some technical problems with the Zoom. And
That's fine.
I like the idea of we never got a lot of public participation in Zoom, but we had some. And maybe someday there'll be some kind of hybrid option so that people can Zoom in to this meeting. But I don't want to go through what happened a couple weeks ago when we couldn't meet again. I don't want to go there.
Oh,
So-
you have your meeting.
I would like to say something as a member of the public.
Yes.
I love attending your meetings and would like to. I have another meeting because I'm on the technology committee on Mondays at 6 o'clock. The every other Monday, which is opposite the Conservation Commission meeting.
That's great. I have
That's
to do
right.
that.
But this is did we not discuss this last time, or?
I think we
You're-
said that
Oh, we were gonna switch to
we
a
would
different
consider
day.
switching it. I think we said we'd switch it once you were like officially approved.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay.
To a different day, right?
I get to get that official.
That's
stamp.
kind of going to motivate you to get that official.
Yes.
Right.
You
So like
can't
a
join us.
Thursday? Right? We discussed Thursday?
I think
It's in the minutes, or is it not?
should be in the minutes, but I closed them and I don't have them in front of me anymore.
Meeting
I mean, if that's the case, we can start now as a motivator for Mr. LaValle's continued citizenry participation.
You're not going to kick me out of town? Is that what you mean?
We move
Okay.
it from Mondays.
If her gets appointed, the SHA will move the meetings to Wednesdays.
Oh, Wednesdays, okay.
Well, let's,
Opposite of the planning board.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yes.
just thinking.
Yeah.
But it says if, only if her gets appointed.
If her.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to suggest that we could move him to Wednesdays anyway, on the assumption that he will be appointed, but that is an assumption. Maybe the Attorney General will not appoint
Deny
you.
you.
Yes,
That's true.
It could happen.
You don't want to go out of your way.
So we might as well stick to Mondays, I guess.
I mean, they're not going to deny you. But
They may never approve me.
they may never approve you.
Just throw me into the pile of files.
Well,
Like,
so-
Wouldn't you just run for elections?
Yeah, if there's a space.
Then,
now,
yeah, someone was going to ask,
in
Is there
June.
it could run in my spot if I don't.
But I think you'd want to use the space to try to get somebody who is
Right.
less involved with
Yeah.
town things
Right.
already.
Right.
Okay.
And we do want someone from the state appointed too. We
Yeah.
don't
I
have
still
that.
don't get that.
we still haven't
I don't
succeeded.
understand. Do the state just
Yeah,
like
stuff.
appoint someone randomly that doesn't have to be elected?
Correct.
I found
Okay.
a website
Alright.
You have to
where it
apply.
it
You have
listed
to
the
apply.
people.
You have to
Listed the people and
I've
then,
never heard of.
yeah,
And I don't think it's unique to the Housing Authority.
no.
Oh,
I haven't heard of that on any other board I've been on.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe it
It's
is
not
unique
on
to the Housing
Conservation
Authority.
Commission. It's not for, oh,
Maybe they haven't pursued
Maybe
it.
it's,
or-
yeah, maybe it's just one of those things that was in like the bylaw that created the housing authority, and
Maybe.
nobody changed it because they weren't reading it carefully.
Perhaps.
it sounds like it's a state thing.
Yeah, I think
The
so.
state wants to
So-
approve things.
There's two ways to look at this, right? Why change
yeah.
until we have to? On the other hand,
I think.
I appreciate your participation, and we would have it if we changed
Yeah,
as a citizen.
Yeah, otherwise I'll just do what I had been doing before, which is attending when my other meeting ends.
yeah.
Because I had to skip my other meeting tonight.
And Joy, did you say you have to attend the technology meeting on?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
I don't have to. I don't know what technology.
You don't know what it is.
I don't know what technology
You don't have
is.
anything to do with that committee.
Okay. I mean, I'd be fine with changing to
See
Wednesday.
that phone?
so-
We did that. That was us.
It's so fancy. I would not know how to use it.
It actually took me a minute to.
Yeah.
It just looks intimidating.
It
Don't
looks
let
like a
intimidate.
spaceship.
It has those things have a funny name, like
Yeah, they
like
do.
Spider or something like
It
that.
looks like a drone.
But
Yeah.
it
It's
picks
not
up
gonna
great,
fly.
picks up great audio.
Yes.
All right, so Wednesdays?
Wednesday the
Do we want to
15th?
start this one's?
Why not?
This next month? Okay.
All
So
right.
we're gonna be doing, but then we're gonna change it to when? The 8th? Wednesday the 8th?
I think we should do the 15th.
That's when the planning board is.
Oh, then I think we should do the 22nd because it's like Wednesday the 8th is like next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think the 22nd actually makes
Is
it
there-
better because then it's further.
Is there anything you need to do though for the grants?
One
committee?
stop?
Do you guys
Yeah.
meet once a month or?
Once.
Yeah, okay.
Do we need to vote in order to do a one-stop grant or no?
don't
I think
so.
we voted, because, right? What do the minutes say?
No, we haven't voted to do a one-stop request yet. Should we do that
Oh,
real
yeah, we
quick?
should do that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
I vote to do a one-stop request in regards to zoning, anything else? Zoning for affordable housing.
Zoning feasibility?
So there were three items that Chris,
Feasibility, anything for feasibility.
so there was multi-use zoning or commercial housing zoning. There
Yeah.
was,
Or anything else that would fall under rural development for affordable housing.
Mhm.
That should cover anything that the ad hoc grant committee discusses as well.
Okay. Motion to submit an
That's your
LOI
motion?
for the one-stop grant for zoning feasibility studies or any other project that fits under rural development for affordable housing.
Mhm.
Okay?
point of clarification,
Yes.
excuse my ignorance, but LOI.
Letter of intent.
Huh.
I will spell it
I should
out.
know that.
Okay. So, a second?
Who will second?
Seconded?
All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, there we go. It's unanimous.
Okay.
All right.
So, thank you for that catch. As far as next meeting, so if we meet on the 22nd, are we looking at, is that the 3rd or the 4th? Wednesdays going forward? Is that how it's, or when,
You want to be opposite planning board.
right,
whatever.
does planning board meet every other week
They
or
meet the
first and
first and the
third?
third.
First and
First
third.
and third.
So we would be the 4th.
Yes,
Okay.
fourth
Okay.
Wednesday.
4th Wednesday, fourth Wednesday, being the 22nd of March.
So you guys meet once a month?
Yes,
That's it?
yes.
I guess.
I know, right? Everyone should join this committee.
Right.
Once a month.
Such a
really.
small commitment.
Right.
That's true. I'm quiet.
And it used to be, I mean, we certainly can meet more frequently at PRN as needed, but
That's not
we
necessary.
we haven't
Not
found the
even on the
need.
committee.
We do
I'm
sometimes.
not
We
a
do
big
meetings
fan.
together when we need to.
Like
Yeah.
subcommittee meetings when
That's
they
right.
start doing the house.
That's
the-
right.
Yeah.
It was on the master
There was
plan,
on the
you know,
college
there's
plan, yeah.
a lot of, but I'm not a big fan of meeting for the sake of meeting.
Yeah. Agreed. That's why you're a good chair.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
That will be a
Seconded.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. It's unanimous also. We shall
Okay.
adjourn. I'll hit the record button. Thank you, citizens of Southampton and surrounding towns, for listening. We hope you join us again in the future and consider joining our wonderful committee. Thank you.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.